So let's talk about Wireshark real quick because I think that this is a useful tool that you should be familiar with if you're doing anything in the NDI realm. So we're going to cut over here to this is Wireshark. You can download it for free online and super helpful. When you first fire it up, it tells you what connections you have to the network. Okay. Now, my connection to my network, I have two 1 gigabit fiber connections to a 4250, which is also 1 gig port. And here, when you turn it on, it tells you what connections you have. And you have to pick one, okay? So you have to, it actually doesn't show my mouse, which is not helpful here, but you have to pick one. And I have two fiber connections. Both of them are showing this similar activity on both. So I'm just going to pick fiber one. And I'm going to stop the actual capture for a moment just to explain kind of what's going on, because there is a lot going on, okay? You can tell when you first turn this on, you say connect to the fiber. What happens is that Wireshark starts displaying everything that's coming into that fiber port. Basically just saying anything that you're capturing, go ahead and take a look at it, okay? So here is a bunch of information, maybe not particularly helpful right out of the gates, but it will be helpful to know what you're seeing and how to kind of decipher. And Wireshark just runs indefinitely until you tell it to stop running. Okay, so it just keeps running, and you have to tell it to stop. Now, be careful if you're running vMix and you're running Wireshark, because you're interfering with the packets that are coming in. Oh, by the way, and doing a live show, you're interfering with the packets that are coming into the computer, and it's actually scanning each of those and showing them. So you're probably going to get drop frames. This isn't something that you want to do like I'm doing live on the show. You're probably going to want to wait to do this, and be sure that you use this in a troubleshooting scenario. What Wireshark essentially tells you, well, it doesn't just essentially, it tells you what's going on, what the computer's seeing, and evidently you can use it in nefarious ways to like promiscuous mode, where you can watch packets going across networks and not just into your own machine. But today, I just want to show you what it means when packets are coming into your machine. And vMix is a great example, because I am bringing in packets into vMix live from cameras, which means packets from IP packets are coming from the cameras to my computer over this fiber connection. And you can see just by hitting start, you can see that lots of packets started coming through. Now, I have 3 cameras and a play unit all kind of connected to this scenario, okay? Coming into vMix, and then vMix is shipping out to the play unit and actually out to this computer, shipping out NDI packets in that regard. So there's a lot of stuff coming and going, and we need to be aware of that. If you shut this all down and just open Studio Monitor and connect to a camera and hit start, you'll likely just see those packets coming through, unless you're doing a lot of web searching and whatever. You're likely going to see a lot of similar packets from the same IP address to the same IP address coming in to the same place. And that's basically what we're looking for. But we can see if we're having any errors, if packets are getting dropped. And by the way, a lot of information will be coming across the wire very fast, okay? So this is just a quick little snapshot. But what you're seeing here is packets coming from a device, to a destination. And I believe my Fiber 1 connection is 248, which is what this lists out here. Matter of fact, let me see if I can, okay, yeah, that's in full bandwidth. So you're seeing those packets come from a device, 187, to 248. Now, you might say like, well, how do I know what's what? Like, how do I know? Well, the easiest way to do that is to open Chrome and just type in 192.168.1.187, right? And that's going to tell you what device that is. So 192.168.1.187. And that appears to be a P4K, which happens to be the P4K that you're looking at right here on this camera. So those packets are coming in probably to vMix for that purpose. I'm watching that P4K live right here in vMix, so I know those packets are coming in. So it's going from 187 to 248. So how do I know what 248 is? Well, easy thing to do there is to open command prompt and just type in ipconfig and see if that is either of your network adapters. And sure enough, 248 happens to be fiber 1, which is the connection that we made here on this computer. So we know these are packets coming from P4K over to my computer, probably vMix. This also works if you open Studio Monitor. Okay, so you don't have vMix, you don't have any of that. Shut it all down. You're just running Windows 10, and you start Wirecast or Wireshark. You're not going to see very many packets coming through with no connections made. But as soon as you open Studio Monitor and let Wireshark run, open Studio Monitor, connect to the P4K, you're going to see all of a sudden a population of a bunch of packets coming across. Now, what does this really tell us? I mean, that's good, all well and good to know. This is how you read this information. What does it actually tell us? Well, there's a couple of useful things here on this screen that we can use. The first thing is it shows us that packets are arriving in sequence. Okay? So they're all arriving, the numbering stuff, they're all arriving in sequence, and it tells us the IP addresses of the actual source and the destination. And in many cases, the the computer IP address will be one of those two things. So if we're shipping packets, for example, off to my Play, we're going to see packets leaving this computer and going to whatever the Play IP address is. All right, and you're going to notice a few of that. So you're going to notice a few of that as we go through these packets, just kind of quickly scanning. The next thing this tells you is what protocol this camera is running on. And this says that it is running on a TCP protocol, which is cool because not only does it show that packets are coming across in TCP, it shows us that the ACK packets are also going back. So you're going to see here an incoming packet coming from source 187 to my computer 124 or 148. But then the next packet is going to say, now we're sending a packet from 248 back to 187, right? And this is the ACK packet that's going back to acknowledge on the TCP protocol that the packet has arrived, send the next one. And it's going to do that back and forth constantly, okay? So it's going to 187, and then we're going to have another 248 down the line here. So 187, where are we? 187, 248, 187, 248, 187. So there's this constant conversation back and forth between on the TCP protocol that, yes, those packets arrive, send the next one, send the next one, send the next one, okay? We can verify that TCP is working correctly because we're seeing that conversation happening. Now, what happens, though, if we have a multicast protocol? Well, we're going to see the UDP protocol on that list, okay? So if I'm running in multicast, I'm going to see UDP as the protocol. Also, if you're running in UDP, you'll probably also see UDP. But the way that you differentiate between multicast and unicast is by the destination. And so the destination changes to this 239, 255, yada, yada, yada. What that is the actual multicast configuration on my network is managing the packets. And so my computer 248 is sending a unicast packet into the multicast configuration, and then that's going off to wherever else it needs to be. And more than likely, this is a conversation between my Play, because the Play is running in multicast. Okay, so I'm sending vMix output 3, which happens to be my multi-viewer, which is right below the camera that you're looking at, and it's going multicast out to Play. And Play is then getting that information off my multicast network and displaying it for me on my computer. So I can see right here in Unicast, or I'm sorry, in Wireshark. Geez, there's too many of these cast and shark names. I can see here, right here in Wireshark, that I am sending a unicast packet, or I'm sorry, a UDP packet, which is multicast, and that's going onto the network and then being delivered somewhere else. Now, I don't see the packet going from multicast to the Play, but I do see the packet leaving my computer into the multicast interface. And so that's what's going on here, is that we are shipping that out into the multicast realm. So this is UDP, which is correct for multicast, and we see that it's connecting to this destination that is not a 192.168.1 address, right? This is actually a multicast address, and so that's what's going on there. Okay, and then so that tells us what's going on there. Now, the other thing that we want to do is up here at the top, you can actually set this to display only information from a particular IP address. So anything that happens from that IP address will get shown. So it's like a filter. Or you can tell it to look at specific port numbers being used. And so, as you know, NDI uses specific ports, right? So perhaps we want to sniff a particular NDI port that's going on. It's not really sniffing, but it kind of is. We want to look at a specific port going on our network or coming into our computer. We don't want to see all of the data. So say I'm using a web browser, I'm going to get a lot of 80s or 443s, or I'm going to get a lot of HTTP protocols. I don't want to see any of that. I just want to see the packets that are coming in on the NDI ports. And so maybe that's, what was it, 5961? Or, yeah, 5961, 5962. Those ports are commonly used for NDI. And so we can specify what those actual ports are. And so we can say we want to look at that particular port number. We can also specify an IP address. And so say I want to only see information that's coming from a specific TCP IP address or my own IP address. I want to specify either of those. I've got a TCP camera. All right, this camera we know is running at 1.187. So I can go up here to the filter and say IP address, okay? And then I can say equals, and then I can put in the actual IP address of the camera. So 187. And now I can hit enter, and this will filter on the next search. This will filter any of the, it should filter them on this search. Filtered any of the communications that have 187. So I don't see any unicast packets in here because this is a TCP protocol. And this is everything that's coming from the P4K. All right, so when we did that search, when we ran that live data, and then I stopped it, you have to stop it because it can go on indefinitely. Then I stopped it, and then I click on IP address equals 192.168.1.187, and I hit enter. It shows me everything that came from this. And you can even go more so and say from IP address source, so only show the stuff that's in the source list from this IP address, or destination or whatever. So you can get kind of specific with how that works. And then this tells us what's going on. Now, I want to show you this thing failing. I want to show you what it looks like when something fails. And so I've set up a quad. All right, now the first thing to know about this quad is that it is currently running in multicast. So the quad is 1.17. So let's see if we have any packets from 1.17. We probably shouldn't, but we might, because there might be some ACK packets in there that came across like when it booted up. It doesn't look like there are. So I am going to go over to the quad's web interface, 192.168.1.17. I'm going to log into the quad. You're not going to be able to see this because I'm doing this on a separate machine. Log into the quad. And I am going to change this protocol from multicast. Okay, it's currently in encode. Change it from multicast to TCP. So now I'm going to start Wireshark. This is going to say, do you want to save your results? No, I'm just going to continue without saving. You can archive those results. But now we're running. CPU is hanging on, so that's good news. And now I'm going to apply the TCP command, and I'm going to restart video on the quad. Okay, so we're coming out of multicast and going into TCP. A packet has been discovered already. We've got MDNS requests that are showing up, which is expected, by the way. A lot of MDNS queries. We're changing over, and are we? Refresh the dashboard. Yeah, dashboard is up. So now I'm encoding on 1.17. I'm encoding the P200, the P200 shot. And if I open that, if I open in Studio Monitor that quad encoder, okay, so I'll throw this up here now for you that you can see. So, what? Wait a minute. Okay, there we go. So now if I open that quad, which is, I believe, this guy. Hang on, let me verify that. B4. Yeah, it's this guy. So if I say stream 1, okay, that's the 200, and that's the quad. So now I'm bringing those packets in. Well, Wireshark is struggle busing here. Okay, here we go. Let's have her come back. And I don't know if I should change this from proxy. I probably should. Whoops. Yoink. So now I'm going to require of my computer a whole bunch of work. I might crash things here. Who knows? So we want to specify anything that's coming from 117, any packets or anything like that. And by the way, I might actually have to reboot this device to get that TCP protocol to work. So let me do that because it's only giving the MDNS queries. So we'll reboot, and while we reboot, we're going to try one of these sea-salt caramels. Don't mind if I do. Oh, man. That's very rich. That's for sure. Woo. Really good, though. Okay, Quad, come on back now. Don't leave me hanging. I really need a technical difficulty slide, but you get the idea. Hey, all right. I'm going to log back into it. Her. So she is coming up. And it does appear that she is encoding. Yep. Whoa. It's quite slow. Stream 1. We are getting more MDNS queries. Let's go ahead and restart this scan. Continue without saving. Oh, man. Yeah, this computer is struggle bussing now. Let me just check on the chat here. I have a similar set microphones from Hollyland. They've been pretty good. Has a charging case like AirPods for 2 belt packs, built-in condenser mics they can plug into a lav. 5961 TCP. Is it RUDP, which uses TCP and UDP? Is there an NDI plugin for Wireshark to follow the stream? No, there is not. Okay. There is not. Boom. Okay. So now I'm watching this over on Studio Monitor, and that is what is pulling in all of these packets. So now we are going to attempt to stop. Whew. Yeah, she's burning here. It doesn't look like the stop command is allowed at this point. But anyways, so you are seeing everything that's going to 117. And that is this camera, which is the P200 going into a quad, and the quad then outputting TCP. So my decode is struggling. My CPU is just crazily overloaded right now. But you can see these packets coming in real time. Matter of fact, I can't, for some reason, stop it, which you should be able to. But here are all those packets, and we have confirmed that it is now on TCP. Now, what I want to do midstream is change it to multicast. And what you're going to see is a bunch of TCP error, basically, errors show up. Boom! As soon as I changed it, basically an interruption of the packets that are coming to the unit. And you can see in Studio Monitor, it's frozen, right? So now it was sending all that data. And this, whoa! All right, so that's very strange. So it was sending all that data. And when you switch protocols or you change IP or you change streams inside vMix and stuff, this is what's going on behind the scenes. The computer basically has a bit of a hernia because all of a sudden all this packet stream has been broken, which is why it takes a few seconds to switch over to other sources. So I got a play, for example, that's running full NDI, and I change the NDI source. Why it's not, people are like, why isn't it instant? This is why. Because you have to break the stream. You have to stop the packet flow and then dump everything that you were working on, reacquire a new stream on the network, and then start going again. And so I've changed the actual protocol to multicast. Not too sure if it's actually going to pick up. It still doesn't like the TCP commands. And for network changes like that, when you're doing protocol changes, I really strongly advise that you reboot the device. And so that's what I'm doing here. I've just hit restart. Reboot the quad. And so it's going to take 2 minutes, and I'm going to enjoy another one of these caramels because this is going to take longer than 30 seconds. So it's showing you what's going on when you change an NDI source. Those red lines are basically packets that never made it. And it's showing errors, which is great. But Wireshark should not be running alongside vMix. Okay. The quad's coming up. MDNS records are being requested. Whoa. Bunch of TCP packets. All right. Quad is up. Well, quad is loading. It says it's in multicast. I'm waiting for the SDI connection to start. Whoa. I did not tell Wirecast to stop. Wireshark to stop. Really, apologies, Wirecast. I'm using your name a lot here. UDP. So when I started quad and it started encoding, so the encode is now happening in Studio Modder. When I started doing that, boom, there's a UDP. So now we know this is back in multicast. And that's a way, if you suspect that your product is not using multicast correctly on your properly configured multicast network, this is a way that you can verify that your device is indeed running in multicast. So 1.17 is the quad, and the destination is a multicast destination, and the protocol is UDP. So I could verify that that did switch over to multicast and now is generating a multicast capture. So I've just quit Wireshark, and I need to close down Wireshark because she is, the longer you run it, obviously, the more data it's going to use. And I really don't recommend running it in parallel to Studio Modder running full screen and vMix running full blast because you're going to have performance issues. But I just killed that, and now my CPU is running at 60%. So that might be what is going on with all that. But Wireshark is really helpful. Now, there's a few other commands, but I won't insult your intelligence because there are ways of finding those commands. If you want to do more than that with Wireshark, this is just a general gist of things, you can look up something called the Wireshark cheat sheet, okay? And the Wireshark cheat sheet will tell you what all the acronyms and everything means, but then we'll also tell you what commands and how to type out commands and which ones to use for what outcomes you're looking for. And so it's a good way to kind of scan things, keep an eye on what it is that is going on. So